The security footage played on the screen, grainy but clear enough to see what happened. A well-dressed woman's hands moved in quick, subtle gestures while maintaining a perfect smile. The man across from her nodded, seemingly unaware of the silent conversation happening right in front of him. A third person, a young father holding his sleeping daughter, caught the signs and slowly reached for his phone. Within minutes, the armed man who had been threatening the CEO was on the ground, and the single dad was being hailed as a hero. But that was just the beginning of a story that would change all their lives forever. If you're moved by stories of everyday heroes, quick thinking in dangerous situations, and the beautiful connections that can form in the most unexpected moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories that remind us of the good in humanity. Chen straightened her blazer as she walked through the gleaming lobby of Clearview Technologies. At 38, she had worked relentlessly to become the youngest CEO in the company's history, breaking barriers as both a woman and a first-generation immigrant. The weight of responsibility sat comfortably on her shoulders after 3 years at the helm, though today promised to be particularly challenging. Budget cuts were necessary, and she would have to let several employees go. She nodded at the security guard and pressed the elevator button, mentally rehearsing the difficult conversations ahead. The company had been her life for 15 years, and these decisions never got easier. The elevator doors opened, revealing a man she didn't recognize. Something about his rigid posture and darting eyes made her hesitate, but she stepped in anyway, professional smile firmly in place. "Good morning," she said politely. The man nodded curtly. He wore a maintenance uniform with the company logo, but Maya didn't recall seeing him before. His name tag read, Paul. As the elevator ascended, Maya noticed his hands trembling slightly. She was about to ask if he was new when the elevator stopped on the 3rd floor. A young man stepped in, holding a sleeping toddler against his chest. Maya recognized him immediately, Daniel Reyes, one of their software engineers who had recently returned from parental leave after his wife's death. The company had adjusted his schedule to accommodate his new life as a single father. His daughter, Lily, couldn't have been more than 3 years old, her small head resting trustingly on her father's shoulder. "Morning, Miss Chen," Daniel said quietly, careful not to wake his daughter. "Good morning, Daniel." "And good morning to little Lily," Maya replied with genuine warmth. "Daycare drop-off today?" Daniel nodded. They had a water leak at the center. "I have to bring her in with me until my sister can pick her up in a couple hours." Maya smiled. "That's perfectly fine. Let me know if you need anything." The elevator continued its ascent in silence. Maya noticed Daniel's hands moving slightly, signing to his daughter even as she slept, a habit he'd developed since Lily had been diagnosed with partial hearing loss the previous year. The company had sponsored American Sign Language classes for the entire development team in solidarity. When the elevator reached the executive floor, Maya stepped out, surprised when both men followed. Daniel was headed to the IT department on the other side of the floor, but the maintenance worker had no obvious reason to be there. "Can I help you find something?" Maya asked Paul. "I need to speak with you privately," he said, his voice tight. "About my position." Maya hesitated. She didn't recognize him from the list of affected employees, but perhaps he'd heard rumors. "Of course. We can talk in my office." Daniel continued down the hallway with his daughter while Maya led Paul to her corner office with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. As soon as the door closed behind them, the man's demeanor changed completely. "Lock the door," he demanded, his voice dropping to a threatening growl. Maya froze. "Excuse me?" Paul reached into his maintenance uniform and pulled out a small handgun. "I said lock the door. Now." Maya's heart hammered in her chest as she slowly moved to comply. Her mind raced through security protocols and panic buttons, none of which she could access without being noticed. "What do you want?" she asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. "You don't recognize me, do you?" Paul's laugh was bitter. "I'm Paul Mercer." My brother was David Mercer. The name hit Maya like a physical blow. David Mercer had been a mid-level manager who'd been fired the previous year for ethical violations, selling company secrets to competitors. He'd lost everything in the ensuing legal battle and had taken his own life 3 months ago. "I'm sorry about your brother," Maya said carefully. "But..." "Sorry?" Paul's voice rose. "You destroyed him. He wasn't stealing anything, he was set up. And you didn't even investigate properly before ruining his life." Maya maintained eye contact, trying to project calm she didn't feel. "Paul, I understand you're in pain. We can talk about this. But the gun isn't necessary." "We're beyond talking," Paul said, gesturing for her to sit behind her desk. "You're going to transfer $5 million to an account I've set up. Consider it compensation for my brother's life. Then you're going to write and publish a company statement clearing his name." Maya sat down slowly, her mind working furiously. Through the glass wall of her office, she could see the main floor where employees were beginning to arrive. Daniel had stopped at the reception desk, apparently filling out a visitor badge for his daughter. He glanced toward her office, and their eyes met briefly. In that moment, Maya made a decision. While maintaining conversation with Paul, she began to sign with her hands below desk level, where he couldn't see clearly but where Daniel might notice if he looked again. "Help me. He has a weapon." She kept her face neutral, continuing to speak calmly to Paul about his demands while her hands formed the desperate message. She wasn't sure if Daniel would look her way again or if he would understand, but it was her only hope. "I'll need to access our secure financial system," she told Paul, stalling for time. "It requires multiple authorizations for transfers of that size." "Figure it out," Paul snapped, the gun steady in his hand. "You have 30 minutes before I start making examples." Outside, Daniel had finished at the reception desk and was about to walk away when something made him glance back toward the CEO's office. Maya was nodding at something the maintenance worker was saying, but her hands were moving in a pattern Daniel instantly recognized. His blood ran cold as he read the signs. Daniel's mind raced. He couldn't call out or make any obvious moves without potentially escalating the situation. With his daughter in his arms, he couldn't directly intervene. He shifted Lily to his other shoulder, using the movement to casually take out his phone as if checking messages. Without looking down, he activated the emergency SOS feature and typed a quick text to security, "Armed hostage situation in CEO's office. Man in maintenance uniform. I'm on main floor with my daughter." He pressed send and then slowly moved to a seating area with a clear view of Maya's office, pretending to settle his daughter more comfortably while keeping the situation in his sight line. He began signing back when he was sure the gunman wasn't looking. "Help coming. Stay calm." Maya caught the movement and gave an almost imperceptible nod while continuing her conversation with Paul. She was explaining the complexities of the financial system, introducing small technical problems that would need to be resolved, buying precious minutes. "The system requires biometric confirmation from our CFO as well," she explained. "He should be arriving shortly." "Call him," Paul demanded. "Get him in here now." Maya reached for her phone, her hand trembling slightly. As she did, she noticed movement in the hallway. Security personnel were quietly evacuating employees from the floor, moving with practiced efficiency. Daniel remained seated, now signing updates to her about what was happening outside her line of sight. Security evacuating floor. Police notified. Stay calm. Paul, focused entirely on Maya and the promised money transfer, remained unaware of the response mobilizing around him. Maya dialed her CFO's number, knowing he was already in the building but had likely been intercepted by security. "Robert, could you come to my office immediately? We have an urgent financial matter." Her voice betrayed nothing of the terror she felt. "He's on his way," she told Paul after hanging up. "The transfer will take a few minutes to process once he arrives." Outside, Daniel watched as police officers in tactical gear quietly assembled at the far end of the floor. An officer approached him, crouching to speak in hushed tones. "Sir, we need to get you and your daughter to safety." Daniel shook his head slightly. "I'm communicating with Ms. Chen. The suspect doesn't know sign language. I'm telling her what's happening." The officer hesitated, then nodded. "Stay low, keep your daughter covered. What can you tell us about the situation?" One armed man, handgun, Daniel signed to Maya, then relayed her response. "He wants money and a public statement clearing his brother's name. David Mercer, former employee who committed suicide after being fired for corporate espionage." The information was quickly passed to the tactical team. Daniel continued the silent conversation with Maya, becoming the crucial link between her and the response team. His daughter stirred against his shoulder, and he gently soothed her back to sleep, his heart pounding with fear for her safety even as he remained their best hope for resolving the situation peacefully. Inside the office, Paul was growing increasingly agitated. "What's taking so long? Your CFO should be here by now." "The building is large, and he might have been in a meeting," Maya said reasonably, though she knew Robert would never appear. "Paul, while we wait, can we talk about your brother? I'd like to understand better what happened." The question seemed to catch Paul off guard. His grip on the gun loosened slightly as pain flashed across his face. "You people never gave him a chance to explain. The evidence was circumstantial at best, but you needed a scapegoat." Maya listened intently, both to buy time and because a terrible suspicion was forming in her mind. "What was his explanation?" "I only saw the final report." As Paul spoke about his brother's claims of innocence, Maya realized with growing horror that there might have been merit to them. The investigation had been handled primarily by their previous head of security, who had since left the company under questionable circumstances himself. Outside, the tactical team was in position. Through Daniel's silent relay, they knew the layout of the office, Paul's position, and that Maya was seated behind her desk. They had a clear shot through the glass wall, but were hesitant to take it with Maya so close to the line of fire. Daniel signed to Maya, "Police ready. Can you move away from him? Create distance?" Maya gave a slight nod and slowly stood from her desk. "Paul, I need to access the secure terminal over here to begin the transfer process." She gestured to a computer station against the wall, which would put several feet between them and give the tactical team a clearer shot. Paul hesitated, then nodded, the gun still trained on her. "No tricks." As Maya moved toward the terminal, Daniel signed quickly, "Now. Drop to floor when you hear signal." A security officer near Daniel spoke quietly into his radio. Seconds later, the building's fire alarm blared to life. The sudden noise startled Paul, and in that moment of distraction, Maya dropped to the floor as she'd been instructed. The tactical team moved with precision. Two officers burst through the office door while another called out clear commands. Startled by the noise and the sudden entry, Paul turned wildly, his finger tightening on the trigger. A single shot rang out, not from Paul's gun, but from an officer's. Paul crumpled to the ground, the bullet having struck his shoulder, causing him to drop his weapon. In seconds, it was over. Officers secured Paul while others rushed to Maya, helping her to her feet and escorting her from the office. She was shaking but unhurt. As soon as she was clear of the danger, her eyes sought out Daniel, who was standing now, his daughter awake and crying from the noise and commotion. Maya rushed to them, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she signed and spoke simultaneously. "You saved my life." Daniel nodded, bouncing his frightened daughter gently. "Are you okay?" "Yes," Maya replied, then reached out to touch Lily's back soothingly. "I'm so sorry you were both in danger because of me." In the aftermath, as paramedics treated Paul's wound and police took statements, Maya stayed close to Daniel and Lily. The building was evacuated as a precaution, and they found themselves sitting on a bench outside, shock blankets around their shoulders despite the mild day. "What he said about his brother," Maya said quietly. "I think we may have made a terrible mistake. The evidence against David Mercer never sat right with me, but I deferred to the investigation team." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "I worked with David. He wasn't the type. Always talked about his brother, how he'd raised him after their parents died." Maya made a decision then, one that would alter the course of many lives. "When this is over, I want to reopen the investigation. If David was innocent, we need to clear his name, even posthumously. And we need to make it right for his family." In the weeks that followed, Maya was true to her word. A thorough investigation revealed that David had indeed been framed by the former head of security, who had been the one selling company secrets and had needed a scapegoat when suspicions arose. Paul, who survived his injury, was charged but given leniency in light of the circumstances. The company established a substantial trust in David's name to support families affected by workplace injustice. But the most profound change came in the relationship between Maya and Daniel. Their shared trauma created a bond that evolved from professional respect to friendship and eventually to something deeper. Maya took a personal interest in Lily, learning more sign language and often joining them for weekend outings that gave Daniel much-needed support. 6 months after the incident, Clearview Technologies launched a new initiative, a comprehensive childcare center within the building, available to all employees and specially equipped to support children with hearing impairments. Maya and Daniel cut the ribbon together, Lily perched happily in Daniel's arms. "This wouldn't exist without you," Maya told him, her hands forming the words alongside her voice. "Or without you," Daniel replied. "Sometimes the worst moments bring us to the best places." As they stood there, surrounded by colleagues who had become like family, Maya reflected on how a few moments of quick thinking and silent communication had not only saved lives but had set in motion changes that would benefit countless others. The tragedy that had nearly occurred had instead become a catalyst for justice, healing, and unexpected love. And Lily, who had slept through the most dangerous moments of that day, would grow up in a world made better by the courage of her father and the woman who would eventually become her second mother, a world where communication transcended barriers and where wrongs could be made right, even after great loss. The security footage of that day became a training tool for law enforcement and corporate security teams nationwide, a testament to the power of alternative communication in crisis situations. But for Maya, Daniel, and Lily, it was simply the beginning of their story, one that proved that even in our darkest moments, connection can be our salvation. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Remember that heroes walk among us every day, and sometimes the smallest skills, like knowing a few signs in another language, can make all the difference in the world. Share this video to spread awareness about the importance of inclusive communication and the unexpected ways it can save lives.